실례가 안 된다면 질문을 좀 드리도록 하겠습니다.
네, 알겠습니다.
지금 집에 계신 분 있잖아요. 그분의 그만과
네.
신혼생활에 대해서
Lovely viewers, welcome back to another captivating story we have for you today. Grab your seats and lean in close, because what you are about to hear isn't just another ordinary rumor floating through the world of entertainment. It's a story packed with shocking claims, deep emotions, and revelations that might just change the way you see one of the most talked about relationships in Korean drama history. We're diving into the untold truth of the split between Song Joong-ki and Song Hye Kyo, as allegedly revealed by none other than Joong-ki's own best friend. And trust me, this one is going to leave you with questions, goosebumps, and perhaps even a new understanding of love, heartbreak, and betrayal in the glitzy world of celebrity romance. Now, before we dive deeper, let's make this interactive because your voice always matters here. As you're listening, I want you to ask yourself, do you think we've heard the full story about their split? Or do you believe there's always been more beneath the surface? Keep that question in your mind because by the end of this story, you might find yourself with a completely different perspective. And don't forget, drop your thoughts in the comment section because this isn't just my story to tell, it's our conversation to have together. The love story of Song Joong-ki and Song Hye Kyo once felt like it had been scripted straight out of the most romantic K-drama. They weren't just two people in love. They were a dream couple, admired globally, and often referred to as Korea's golden pair. Fans rooted for them endlessly. Their chemistry on screen in Descendants of the Sun spilled over into real life, and soon after, the fairy tale wedding followed. For a moment, it felt like nothing could ever break them apart. But then shockwaves. The announcement of their divorce came suddenly and without much warning, leaving fans stunned, confused, and desperate for answers. Up until now, most of us only knew the surface of the story. Statements from agencies, carefully worded press releases, and whispers from insiders. But according to shocking claims made recently by one of Joong-ki's closest friends, the untold truth behind their split paints a picture far more complicated, emotional, and heartbreaking than we ever imagined. And today, lovely viewers, we're going to peel back those layers together. Imagine being in the position of Joong-ki's best friend, someone who has watched him laugh, cry, and fall in love, someone who has seen him at his most vulnerable. When this friend allegedly opened up about what really went down between Joong-ki and Hye Kyo, it wasn't just gossip. It was a raw, emotional account of a love story that fell apart, piece by piece. According to these claims, their split wasn't caused by a single explosive event, but rather by a series of misunderstandings, unspoken words, and unhealed wounds. Doesn't that sound like something we've all experienced at some point in our lives? Think about this for a moment. How many times have relationships broken down, not because of something dramatic, but because of all the little things left unsaid? Those small arguments that build up, those moments when pride gets in the way of communication. As we dive into this story, I want you to reflect on your own relationships, friendships, or family ties. Have you ever lost someone important to you, not because of one big fight, but because of all the quiet hurts that piled up? Now back to Joong-ki and Hye Kyo. The friend revealed that from the very beginning, their love was real. There's no denying that. They truly cared for each other. But being under constant public scrutiny, facing the pressures of fame, and navigating personal differences created cracks in their marriage. The shocking part, according to this friend, is that those cracks were visible much earlier than fans ever suspected. Joong-ki reportedly confided about feeling isolated, like he was living in a marriage where the two of them were growing in different directions. Hye Kyo, on the other hand, was said to be struggling with her own personal challenges, some of which she couldn't fully share even with her closest partner. And here's where the story gets even more painful. According to the claims, communication, or rather the lack of it, became their greatest enemy. Joong-ki's friend painted a picture of two people who loved each other deeply but couldn't always bridge the gap between their worlds. Sometimes silence can be louder than words, and in their case, the silence became deafening. Lovely viewers, let's pause here for a moment. I want you to imagine being in their shoes. Imagine being in love, but also feeling like the person you love most doesn't always understand you. Would you stay and fight through the silence, or would you let go, thinking it might be the kinder choice? Share your thoughts, because this is a question that isn't just about celebrities, it's about life itself. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, rumors. Ever since their divorce, countless speculations have surfaced. Some pointed fingers at Joong-ki, others at Hye Kyo. But Joong-ki's friend made a shocking claim. Neither of them was entirely to blame. Instead, it was the pressure of fame, the unrelenting expectations from fans, and the inability to find peace away from the spotlight that truly tore them apart. Isn't it ironic? The same love story that blossomed under the public eye was the same love story that cracked under it. The friend went further, revealing moments of vulnerability from Joong-ki. Nights when he couldn't sleep, times when he questioned whether he had done enough, or whether love alone was enough to keep their bond intact. He wasn't a perfect husband, but he wasn't heartless either. And as for Hye Kyo, she too wasn't cold or distant by nature. Rather, she was struggling with how to balance her personal happiness with the expectations surrounding her. Here's something to think about. How often do we judge celebrity relationships as if they're performances for our entertainment, forgetting that behind the glamour, they're just human beings? Joong-ki's best friend reminded everyone that this wasn't just about two stars. It was about two people who tried and failed like so many of us do. But wait, there's more. Another shocking part of the friend's revelation was the claim that Joong-ki never truly stopped caring for Hye Kyo, even after the split. In fact, the friend said that Joong-ki once admitted he would always wish her happiness, even if it wasn't with him. Can you imagine carrying that kind of bittersweet love? Wanting someone to be happy, even when it breaks your own heart? That, lovely viewers, is the kind of truth that hits harder than any scandal. Now, here's where I want you to chime in again. Do you believe that true love ever really disappears, or does it simply change form? Joong-ki's story seems to suggest that sometimes love doesn't end. It just shifts into a quieter kind of care, one that remains long after the romance fades. What do you think? The friend's revelations didn't stop there. He also claimed that the divorce wasn't as sudden as the world thought. According to him, Joong-ki and Hye Kyo had been drifting apart for months, perhaps even longer before the official announcement. By the time we all heard about it, the decision had already been made in their hearts. The press statement was just the final step. And yet, despite the heartbreak, there's something almost poetic about the way their story unfolded. They gave the world a love story that inspired millions, and even in their split, they taught us something about the fragility of love and the importance of communication. Isn't that what makes this story so deeply human? Lovely viewers, as we near the heart of these shocking claims, I want to remind you that this isn't about taking sides. This isn't about blaming Joong-ki or Hye Kyo. This is about understanding the untold truth, the messy, complicated, beautiful, and painful reality that love stories aren't always perfect, even when they look that way from the outside. So let's interact again. Do you think Joong-ki's friend was right to reveal all this? Or should some truths remain private, left only to those who lived them? It's a difficult question, but it's one worth asking. As the story continues to circulate, fans are left divided. Some feel sympathy, some feel anger, and others feel an even deeper respect for both Joong-ki and Hye Kyo for enduring such struggles in silence. One thing is for sure, though, the shocking claims have added layers to their story that many of us never saw coming. And now, dear viewers, as we reflect on everything we've learned today, let's take this as more than just a celebrity story. Let's see it as a mirror to our own lives, a reminder that love is fragile, communication is essential, and sometimes even the strongest bonds can break under the weight of silence and expectation. Before I close, I want you to leave me one thought in the comments. If you were in Joong-ki's shoes, would you still hold love in your heart for Hye Kyo, even after the split? Or would you let go completely and move on? Your answer might just spark the most heartfelt conversation yet. Lovely viewers, thank you for staying with me through this emotional and interactive journey. The shocking claims from Joong-ki's best friend may have revealed the untold truth of their split, but at the end of the day, what we really uncovered is a story about being human, about loving, hurting, and learning to let go. And that, more than anything else, is a truth that unites us all. Since we paused at the moment where I asked whether you would still hold love in your heart for someone after a painful split or let go completely, let's continue deeper into this conversation because the revelations don't just end there. Joong-ki's best friend, while already stirring hearts with what he revealed, allegedly went on to share even more details that shed new light on how things truly unfolded behind closed doors. And believe me, once you hear this continuation, you'll understand why the story of Joong-ki and Hye Kyo continues to resonate with millions even after all this time. According to him, Joong-ki's quiet moments after the divorce weren't just about sorrow, they were about reflection. He reportedly admitted to his friend that part of him wondered if he had given up too soon. Imagine the weight of that regret, lovely viewers. To know you loved someone, to know you once promised forever, and yet to question whether you could have fought harder. His friend shared that Joong-ki had nights where he replayed old conversations in his head, wondering what would have happened if he had chosen different words, softer tones, or more patience. Doesn't that sound familiar? How many of us lie awake at night wondering what could have been if we had just said one more kind word or shown just a little more understanding? But the most inclusive and touching part of this continuation is that Joong-ki's best friend didn't stop at telling his side. He spoke about Hye Kyo too. He revealed that, despite what the media made it look like, Hye Kyo wasn't cold or detached from the marriage. She was fighting her own battles. According to him, she often felt misunderstood, misrepresented by the endless headlines, and pressured to smile even when her world was crumbling. She wasn't emotionless. She was simply trying to carry her pain with dignity. And perhaps, that very silence made it harder for Joong to understand the depth of her struggles. Let's pause here, lovely viewers. How often do we look at someone, see their calm face, and assume they're fine? Yet behind that smile, there could be storms raging. This is exactly why communication becomes so vital. Do you agree that sometimes silence is misread as indifference when it's really just a shield to hide pain? I'd love to see your thoughts on this in the comments, because I know many of you might relate to this in your own lives. Now, the friend also shared something that shocked even those who thought they knew everything about the split. He claimed that there was never a lack of love between Joong and Hye Kyo, even at the end. The problem wasn't love. It was the inability to manage everything else surrounding them. Fame, distance, media pressure, and unspoken insecurities. All these things became walls between them. Doesn't it break your heart to think that love alone wasn't enough to keep them together? And here's where things take an even more emotional turn. The friend revealed that after the divorce, Joong would still ask about Hye Kyo quietly, in conversations away from the spotlight. He wanted to know if she was doing well, if she was smiling, if she was finding happiness. Imagine that, lovely viewers. Loving someone enough to still check on their well-being, even when they're no longer yours. This is the kind of love that goes beyond romance. It's the kind that lingers as care, as compassion, as a soft ache in the heart. Let me ask you again as we continue. Have you ever loved someone in such a way that even after parting, you still wished nothing but happiness for them? Maybe it was a friend, a partner, or even a family member. Share your stories. It's these human connections that make this conversation richer. And yet, while Joong was quietly carrying his emotions, Hye Kyo was dealing with her own share of loneliness. The friend claimed that she, too, confided in mutual acquaintances about how difficult it was to go through the divorce under the watchful eyes of the public. Every headline reminded her of her pain. Every rumor twisted her silence into misinterpretation. Can you imagine carrying grief while the whole world speculates about you? That, lovely viewers, is a weight not many could bear with grace. This brings us to another powerful reflection. Why do we often expect celebrities to be perfect when they are human like us? Joong and Hye Kyo weren't just actors. They were people navigating heartbreak. Perhaps we as fans sometimes forget that the people we admire on screen are just as fragile as we are. What do you think, lovely viewers? Should celebrities have the right to grieve privately? Or do you think it comes with the territory of fame that their struggles will always be magnified? Now, one of the most heart-stirring parts of this friend's continuation was the claim that Joong once said he would have loved to meet Hye Kyo again under different circumstances. Perhaps in a life where they weren't celebrities, where there were no cameras, no pressures, just two people falling in love without the world watching. That thought alone is enough to bring tears, isn't it? A longing for a simpler love, one that isn't burdened by outside forces. Lovely viewers, let's imagine this together. What if Joong and Hye Kyo weren't stars but just ordinary people who met at a cafe or walked past each other on the street? Would their love story have survived? Would it have been easier without the spotlight? Sometimes, love stories are not destroyed by lack of effort, but by circumstances that two hearts cannot control. And maybe that's what makes their story all the more heartbreaking, because it wasn't about not trying. It was about fighting battles bigger than themselves. And as the friend concluded his account, he left one final bittersweet statement. They both loved, they both lost, and they both will carry each other in their hearts forever, even if they walk separate paths. Lovely viewers, I want to leave you with this question as we continue reflecting together. Do you believe some love stories are meant to last forever, or do you think some exist only to teach us lessons before ending? Think about your own lives. Think about Joong and Hye Kyo, and let's open our hearts in the comments section, because this is a conversation that binds us together not as fans, but as human beings who know love, loss, and the yearning for understanding. When Joong's best friend said, "They both loved, they both lost, and they both will carry each other in their hearts forever, even if they walk separate paths," it struck like a lightning bolt. Those words weren't just poetic. They carried truth, pain, and undeniable tenderness. They reminded us that sometimes love doesn't end with bitterness. Sometimes it lingers quietly, shaping who we become even after we move on. Think about it, lovely viewers. Have you ever had a relationship that changed you so much that even when it ended, the memory of that person became part of who you are? That's exactly what this friend claimed about Joong and Hye Kyo. According to him, Joong and Hye Kyo were not enemies after their split. Despite the harsh headlines and rumors, despite the assumptions the world made, they supposedly carried a soft respect for one another. Isn't that powerful? So often, when relationships end, anger and resentment take center stage. But in their case, as claimed by this insider, what remained was a bittersweet compassion. Like two people who walked through fire together and emerged scarred, but still quietly grateful for the warmth they once shared. Let's stop and make this interactive. How do you view respect after a breakup? Do you think it's possible to still respect and care for someone who once broke your heart? Or do you believe once love ends, all ties should be cut completely? Your answers are going to be fascinating because everyone's experience is different. Some of you might say respect is a must. Others might say it's impossible. Now, the friend went even further into emotional territory. He revealed that, contrary to popular belief, the split wasn't an impulsive decision. Both Joong and Hye Kyo wrestled with it for months. They tried to find common ground. They tried to hold on. Can you imagine the heaviness of waking up every day knowing your love is slipping away, yet trying desperately to tighten your grip? This struggle is something so many couples around the world go through, famous or not. And yet, because Joong and Hye Kyo were under the microscope, their pain became a silent performance with no audience to clap at the end. The most shocking detail, though, was when the friend said Joong once confessed to him that he wished the world didn't know him, that he and Hye Kyo could have been just a normal couple. No cameras, no interviews, no gossip columns. Just love in its simplest form. Lovely viewers, doesn't that hit hard? To have everything, fame, money, admiration, yet to crave only the freedom to love without judgment. It makes us ask a bigger question. Is fame really worth it if it steals away the privacy of your heart? And speaking of privacy, the friend also revealed that one of the major pressures on their marriage was how little space they truly had to breathe. Every move they made was scrutinized, every absence analyzed, every rumor magnified. Imagine living in a world where you can't have a simple disagreement without thousands of strangers speculating about divorce. Would any of us be able to survive that kind of pressure? I'll ask you this. If you were famous, would you still dare to love openly? Or would you protect your heart by keeping it hidden? Share with me in the comments because this question applies not just to stars but to anyone who's afraid of being judged in love. The friend's revelations didn't just stop at Joong emotions. He hinted that Hye Kyo, too, carried regrets. According to him, she sometimes wondered if she could have expressed her feelings more openly, shared her struggles more directly, or leaned on Joong more instead of holding her pain inside. Isn't that a tragic parallel? On one side, Joong wondering if he could have fought harder. On the other, Hye Kyo wondering if she could have opened her heart wider. It's like two souls reaching for each other but missing by inches. Lovely viewers, this is where I want you to reflect again. How often do we lose love not because of lack of feelings, but because of miscommunication? Think about your own experiences. Did silence, pride, or fear ever get in the way of love? If you had a chance to go back, what would you say differently? These questions make this conversation more than just about Joong and Hye Kyo. They make it about all of us. And let's not forget the ripple effect this split had on their fans. Their love story wasn't just theirs. It belonged to millions of people who believed in them. When the divorce was announced, fans weren't just disappointed. Many felt heartbroken as if they had lost something personal. That's the power of parasocial relationships. We don't just watch stars, we invest in their happiness, and their heartbreak feels like ours. How many of you remember the exact moment you heard the news of their split? Did you feel shocked, confused, maybe even betrayed? If so, you weren't alone. The friend also revealed that Joong was aware of the fans' heartbreak. He knew people looked up to their marriage as a symbol of fairy tale love. And according to the friend, that added an extra layer of guilt to his pain. He wasn't just mourning his marriage. He felt like he had let down millions of supporters who believed in their story. Lovely viewers, can you imagine carrying not just your personal grief, but also the weight of disappointing the world? That's a kind of heartbreak most of us will never experience.